I'm also not giving you my name, and I'm not giving you my shoulder number.
No.
I will wager you've never filed a lawsuit in anyone. I will wager.
And that's on record.
You're actually on privately run grounds, so it's a police station.
Ah, I see.
If you'd like to come to the public area,
would that be privately run on the basis that it's publicly funded?
Yeah, but that's not relevant to the fact that it's public infrastructure.
It's highly relevant. Hold on. It's highly relevant.
You're trespassing on the police station.
Okay. Is trespass a civil or a legal matter? Is trespass a civil or a legal matter?
Do you have a request of the police?
Yes, answer the question. Is trespass a civil or police matter?
Do you have a request?
I'll answer the question for the benefit of my viewers.
I think what you're here to do is to ask silly questions.
It's a civil matter. It only becomes a police matter when it's aggravated trespass.
If you could
you do me one favour just to carry on with this consensual conversation? Provide me with 3 forms of address.
Provide you with 3 forms of address?
Identity, my apologies.
I think you are asking some irrelevant questions.
And I'll do it myself.
Oh,
look at your rank. Oh dear me, you know better than that, sir.
I think you're asking questions which aren't relevant.
Here we are, on duty covering identification.
I'm not going to do, because you don't...
Could you, for the benefit of the audience, say what those 2...
The inspector begins by calling the location private property, and quickly brushes aside the fact that it is funded by the public, because that truth weakens his stance and undermines his claim. Then, when that angle fails to hold, he shifts direction and turns the situation into an allegation of trespass, which changes the tone, but not the facts. This is where the challenge becomes accurate, because simple trespass is usually a civil issue, unless specific conditions raise it to something more serious. Raising the point of whether this is a matter for police action or a civil process is not a trick, but a correct and reasonable step in understanding the law. At the same time, the inspector refuses to show his own identification and keeps his details hidden, which creates an uneven exchange where one side makes demands while avoiding accountability. This moment clearly shows authority being pushed forward without the openness and fairness that should always come with it. And it reveals how quickly the balance shifts when transparency is missing.
Private ground when it's public. A lot of people ticking boxes at the moment. It is cliche corner, isn't it? Stick within the bounds of the law. Identify yourself. You're in uniform. That's a second formal offer. You have the opportunity to redress your error.
Have a silly conversation.
For the 3rd and final time before it goes on record.
Of an office building.
On the record, for the 3rd and final time, will you identify yourself while you're in the course of your duty?
What I'm not going to do.
Yes or no?
Is I'm not going to give you permission to
Okay,
put
you're not
this
identifying yourself. This is no longer a consensual conversation.
Onto the internet.
I will take it up with your superiors.
You don't have permission to put that video on the internet. You don't have my personal permission.
Tell me the law that precludes me from doing it.
You're not in a public place.
Tell me the law that precludes me from doing it.
I'm telling you that I'm not giving you personal permission to put any video onto the internet.
Don't need it.
But just so that you know.
Did you watch the Twin Towers come down?
That is relevant.
Did you watch the Twin Towers come down?
Goodness me.
Did you?
You're one of these. Okay.
Oh, one of these. Bingo time, boys. Here we go.
You're going to tell me that the police knocked the Twin Towers down or something like that?
The label of hostility appears the moment the inspector begins to lose control of the situation, even though the individual filming stays calm, steady, and focused on asking clear and simple questions. That calm behavior only becomes a problem because it cannot be pushed into submission or forced to comply. The tension rises further when the inspector claims that personal permission is required before any video can be shared online, which is not confusion, but an attempt to create power that does not exist in law. Officers do not have the right to control footage simply because they feel uncomfortable with how they are shown. When an inspector starts making up consent rules and describing calm behavior as hostile, it shows that attention has shifted away from public responsibility and toward personal feelings. This moment clearly exposes how authority can be stretched beyond its limits when it is met with steady and confident questioning. And it highlights how composure can reveal weakness in unjust claims.
1972 Criminal Justice Act, Section 33, implied rights of access.
There are signs at the front
which I've read and I've recorded and narrated to, and I haven't been anywhere.
You're an angry man.
Anywhere that I shouldn't be.
Who doesn't like public services.
Do you think personal insinuation is the way for a senior officer to behave?
This is an observation. You seem to be very angry.
Angry?
You're here on a police station. You clearly don't like the police.
Would you be delighted if your rights were violated?
Back into.
Would you be delighted? No, you wouldn't.
Very argumentative, and it's
Oh,
far
that's
less
a crime, isn't it? What constitutes authorisation? I'm asking you now, as a member of the public. I work in a public service.
I think that you've got a general dislike of the police.
I work in the public.
When the inspector tells him to move into a public area, it is the point where his position starts to break down, because the man filming points to the double yellow lines outside the station, which are council road markings connected to public highway rules, and not something you would find on true private land. He then builds his argument by referencing Section 33 of the Criminal Justice Act 1972, which supports lawful access in places where the public are normally allowed to go. The inspector chooses not to respond to that point and instead repeats the claim that the man is angry again and again. This reaction does not show control or proper authority, but reveals a senior officer responding with emotion after his legal position has been questioned and clearly exposed. And it shows how quickly consistency fades when the facts no longer
towards what you do.
They'd be allowed to film, and I'd have to identify myself. Firstly, identify yourself as you're obligated to do. The reason you're not going to, because you're
here with an axe to grind, and you don't like
speculation overruled. Speculation overruled.
Give you public service.
See how this will pan out in court. Speculation overruled.
This won't end up in court.
No, it won't, because your side will settle before it goes there. To make a formal complaint about your lack of identification. I'll take it to the relevant body.
But I'm not in public.
I beg. You're on duty.
I'm always on duty.
Exactly, and you have to identify whether you're in plain clothes or not.
I'm not in a public place.
Yes, you are.
I'm not dealing with the public.
Remember, this
you are on private property. So what I'm not going to do is
taken
give
up
you
by
a name
solicitors
to put onto the internet for your angry website where you don't like public
angry
services.
Website, classic. This geezer,
you don't seem to have any questions. What do you want from this interaction?
Who am I speaking with? You're now obligated under two rationales. Your code of ethics. Your code of ethics. And your policies.
Please tell me about the code of ethics.
I think it's the other way around. You need to adhere to
you're giving me all the facts.
Look at the ranking
here.
Look at the rank.
What would you like
Look at the rank.
What would you like to
This is how you behave.
What would you like to achieve?
They always say
This is the moment where the inspector lets go of real professionalism, as he refuses to identify himself not due to safety or any operational reason, but instead claims that PA does not like public servants, which is an emotional excuse that has no legal value. Personal opinion does not remove duty, and disliking someone is not misconduct, and it does not erase responsibility. He then repeats the same statement about private property, as if that claim alone removes his need to be accountable. PA responds by explaining that under the Police Code of Ethics, identification is not a choice, but a basic requirement connected to transparency and public trust, rather than location or personal mood. This moment clearly exposes the clear gap between what authority is supposed to uphold and how it is actually being carried out in real situations, and it highlights how easily standards can slip when accountability is avoided.
Some identification. You do. If you could wear it when you walk around, that would be very useful.
This is a conversation you're having from a man who refuses to identify, so just take note of the hypocrisy from a senior member of your staff.
If you have no reason to be here, then I'll ask you.
Just see the rank hypocrisy of your comment then.
Because I'm going to challenge them if they don't have a reason to be here.
Yeah, you reply one rule to them and not to yourself.
Dislike for the police.
I
don't know why you dislike the police.
I'll tell you what that is. That could be construed as slander.
Well, my observations, my personal opinion.
Whilst on duty. You're not here to enforce personal opinions, you're here to enforce the law. Thank you very much for saying that on camera.
You seem to be rather angry. Please don't walk towards where people are working.
And what happens if I do? Sorry, let me rephrase. What happens exactly when I do?
You're well aware that it's
doing as we speak.
It's a complicated practice.
Calling the station a sensitive site appears as a last attempt to justify control after earlier arguments fall apart. And if it were truly treated that way, the same standard would apply to everyone at all times. Staff move in and out freely without showing visible identification, and it only becomes a concern the moment a camera is present. PA points out this inconsistency, and it is clear, because true sensitivity cannot be applied only when convenient. What weakens the inspector further is how openly personal opinion shapes his actions, as he is not enforcing a clear legal boundary or defined power, but reacting to his own discomfort with being filmed. PA makes it clear that officers are not there to enforce personal preferences or emotional responses, but to act within what the law actually supports. This moment shows how quickly authority loses its strength when it is driven by feeling instead of consistent and lawful standards. And it reveals how selective enforcement can expose the weakness in an unsupported position.
Here we go.
And because of the hostilities from people ranging from casual, camera-wielding, angry people who don't like society and have a problem with public services,
I work in public
violent
service.
acts.
This is brilliant.
Through to violent acts.
Am I committing a violent act?
No, that's
Am
why
I
said
intimidating you?
So that range.
Am I intimidating you?
If you'd like to be famous, I suggest you come up with some content that has a purpose, or ask a question that you think you might get an answer to.
You're less than Wayne Couzens.
Rants like this, citing.
You're less than Wayne Couzens.
Bits of information.
Less than Wayne Couzens. He identified.
Now, if a police officer is on duty in public, I'd expect them to identify themselves. I've had to
on duty.
Bringing up the dangers of policing at this stage is a clear attempt to redirect the situation, because general risk cannot replace a specific and lawful reason for action. PA cuts through this by asking a direct question about what actual violent act has been committed, and the silence that follows speaks for itself. Past incidents or worst-case thinking cannot be placed onto the person standing there just to justify intervention. Using broad danger as an argument turns real risk into a cover that hides the lack of a valid legal reason to step in. This moment shows how quickly serious concerns can be stretched beyond their purpose when there is no solid foundation to support them. And it exposes how weak the position becomes when it relies on fear instead of clear facts.
I don't face the public.
You are now.
I work in an area that none of the public have
access. You're facing a member of the public right now, but you have no right to remove me.
No, I said that I'm not going to.
You have no right to.
Well, let's talk about
You've argued trespass. Trespass is a civil matter.
It is.
If it's aggravated trespass, you're more than welcome.
You're standing in front of a building.
Said building.
Which you don't have a right to stand in front
Standing.
of. And the moment you start intimidating staff coming in and out of the main exit.
I'm not intimidating anybody. That's a false accusation. You're making a false accusation on record.
An aggravated trespass.
You're making a false accusation.
You're standing in front of the double security door
false
to some
accusation.
Infrastructure which carries a risk and a
false
threat.
Reporting is a crime under the 1967 Criminal Act. You do realise that, don't you?
If intimidated by your presence, then you'll find yourself liable to be dealt with under aggravated trespass, which is a criminal intent. So I'm going to leave you with the officers who are on duty.
For final time, you're going to
intimidate my staff with your angry rhetoric, which we've heard so many times.
Then learn the
lessons.
It's
called conspiracy theories.
There is no conduct to point at, no disruption, no obstruction, just a person filming while standing still. Yet it is suddenly being described as aggravated trespass, which is a serious allegation to make without proof, because that offense requires clear and deliberate interference, not simple presence or imagined discomfort. This change in wording shows the inspector raising the accusation only after earlier claims fail to stand. When ordinary filming cannot be presented as a problem, it is reframed into something more serious. At that stage, the focus moves away from proper use of the law and turns into an attempt to stretch it to match a version of events that was never supported by real facts. And it exposes how easily labels can be applied when a solid legal basis is missing.
Then you may be committing an aggravated trespass because through harassment.
Who's the injured party?
If you let me finish.
Who's the injured party?
If you let me finish.
Who's the injured party?
I will answer that question with words.
Member of staff.
If you'll
They're on
let
duty.
me,
They cannot be harassed, alarmed, and distressed.
If you let me.
We've played bingo before.
Stand out
and they're
the
on
front.
duty.
If you stand out the front, intimidating them to prevent them doing their lawful activity, coming to work, then you'll find yourself liable.
Have I committed that offence?
You'll find yourself
Am I suspected of committing that offence?
You'll find yourself liable to aggravated trespass.
Up and up, isn't it?
I will wager you've never filed a lawsuit in anyone. I will wager.
And that's on record, folks.
I'll leave you with these officers.
Please don't
go and enjoy your YouTube channel. I hope your viewer likes watching it. Please leave the press.
Raising the idea that he may be committing aggravated trespass without pointing to any clear act reveals the weakness of the claim. Because the word may carries the entire weight without needing proof and allows the inspector to suggest seriousness without presenting real facts. PA stays focused and breaks it down with simple and direct questions about who has been harmed, who has been blocked, and who has actually been stopped from doing their work. There is no answer because there is no real victim and no disruption taking place. Staff do not become victims just because someone is filming nearby, and suspicion alone does not create harm. The weakness becomes clear as the allegation collapses under basic checks, because aggravated trespass requires intent to interfere with lawful activity, not personal discomfort or annoyance. PA makes that gap clear, and instead of filling it with evidence, the response moves back to assumptions and tone, which is not real enforcement, and turns into a search for something that does not exist. When a claim cannot be tied to real actions or outcomes, then the authority being used exists only as an assumption. The ending confirms it, as the inspector, faced with questions he cannot answer and claims he cannot support, chooses to walk away without any warning action or follow-up, and that silence becomes the final proof that the position could not stand. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.